If you're like me, then you own a ton of Google Home smart products, and today I'm going to walk through all the best devices throughout your smart home that integrate and interact really well with Google Home. Hello automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and today I'm going to take the frustration out of automation by helping you pick all of those products in the right spots in your smart home. Now, some of this I'll explain why I've made a certain choice I have, and some of this I won't. I'll just roll through a number of different products that maybe fit a very specific situation. Now, let's start with the smart speakers themselves. Number one, if you are picking a smart speaker, then the top two I'm going to tell you about today are the Google Nest Hub Max, which is the premier smart display from Google, and I think there are enough features there that I would recommend that you upgrade from one of these. Unless you're finding this at about that $70 price range, then I think that's a pretty good deal and you can head here to the smaller device. Otherwise, the new Nest Mini is fantastic, and in pairs, I must say they are great sounding. I have that in my bedroom right now, and just across that bedroom pair is great sound. Now, once you step outside of the actual Google speakers, things get a little more interesting. What I mean by those speakers are the ones that aren't branded Google. So we've seen LG come out with a ThinQ WK7. I don't really recommend that speaker. It doesn't get enough updates for me. The Lenovo Smart Display and the Lenovo Smart Clock, we've seen those. I really love the Lenovo Smart Display, and that's my pick over, say, the JBL Smart Display as well. I just don't like the look of that one. Feels a little cheap versus the Lenovo Smart Display, and I haven't found it getting quite as fast of updates as the Lenovo. We did touch on the Lenovo Smart Clock, so I'm going to tell you the Lenovo Smart Clock is not quite as good as what you're going to get with a Google Nest Hub. So if you are picking between those two and they are close prices, head here. One of the best speakers you're going to have in your smart home is your TV, and this is the case for a lot of people. Now, what's really great about a device like the Chromecast, and I'm showing a Chromecast Ultra box here, is that it can be used in multi-room audio groups or multi-speaker audio groups. So that means you can turn your TV into a smart speaker simply by attaching that Chromecast device. So you can go all the way up to this Chromecast Ultra, or you can stick around that $30 to $35 price range with a Chromecast and get a lot out of your TV. Now, let's say you wanted to control more than your TV and you wanted to control your TV all through the Google Voice Assistant. The way to do that still today is the Harmony Hub. Now, I haven't had the best experience with the Harmony Hub over the years, but it has started to become more and more reliable as things have kind of evened out and everything has been upgraded on that device as much as they need. Now, the nice thing about the Harmony Hub is it can help you control through IR all of your different Blu-ray players or PVRs or DVRs, whatever you want to call them, your TV itself. Anything with an IR control can be turned on basically by that Harmony Hub. It's very powerful, and you can set up those activities and just ask your Google Assistant to start those activities. It will use Harmony Hub and connect and then create or execute those commands that you have asked for. One of the biggest choices you're going to make in your smart home is actually your router. Now, the ISP might give you a router, and you might find that that hits a limitation pretty quickly in your smart home as you start to get lots of these devices, Wi-Fi devices or other Ethernet connected devices in your home. You're going to hit a limit very quick, and where you won't hit a limit is with Nest Wi-Fi. Now, there's really nice integration with Nest Wi-Fi into the Google Home application. I can manage it all through that application. I don't have to go anywhere else, and I recently did a review on these, and I have to tell you they are fantastic in maintaining connection to just a ton of smart home devices. And that's what you'll find with most of the routers you're going to get from an ISP, or most of those $50 to $100 routers and the mesh Wi-Fi systems that aren't really made for the world of IoT. So Nest Wi-Fi is definitely that middle ground. You're not going and buying kind of a prosumer level solution, which you can do, but I think the Nest Wi-Fi is enough for people for the next 3 to 5 years. The Nest Hello is the doorbell you want, and while that might seem pretty obvious when I start to name some of these Nest devices, the big difference with the Nest Hello is its ability to actually identify people in your smart home or coming up to your smart home, ringing your doorbell. You'll actually get a notification that says who they are if you've put that person's face into the Nest application and put them as part of that face match. It's very powerful stuff, and you can get those notifications coming up on here with a display of your feed, and it's a different kind of notification, but that's what you can get with that versus some of the other doorbells out on the market today. Now, you will also get those notifications on your smartphone from Nest, but what I'm going to tell you with a smartphone, and I've had both iPhones and Pixels in the last year, I'm going to tell you in general, you're going to want an Android phone if you've got a lot of Google stuff. This makes sense, but the Pixel 3a XL, I had that one here for a couple of months. I still have the device, and I will say it's probably that right budget level for a lot of people, and I think it kind of splits the market really well in terms of its performance, in terms of its capability. It's got an amazing camera, and really it just does everything you want, and the apps work and look better, and you get earlier updates with any of the Pixel devices versus, say, having an iPhone and then waiting for some of these Google Home or Google Nest updates. It might take you a little extra time. Now, the Pixel 4 I've also had for a while here, and this is the box from that device, and the Pixel 4 is that next level, and it might price itself out of the market for a few people, but I have to say that the camera is absolutely spectacular. It takes the best photos I have ever taken, and I'm starting to shoot YouTube videos entirely with that device. So it is an incredible camcorder as well. Now, the processor really ups the game here on this versus the Pixel 3a, and really what you do with that is your Google Assistant integration is lightning fast, and you can walk through apps, walk through your smart home, really just move really quickly throughout your day and on your phone with a simple squeeze to talk. Now, here's where we'll diverge a little bit from the Nest family of products, and cameras are something that a lot of people want to add, and I think the Nest cameras are still the premier device, and especially something like an IQ version of their Nest cams there. They are the premier, but they are so expensive, and you don't need to spend that, and I'm here to save you a little bit of money at Automate Your Life when you go out and buy these kinds of products. So the Wyze Cam is the ultimate budget choice, and they're working on some cloud service issues that they have, but in general, this is the camera you're going to want. It can give you access to a lot of other great products from Wyze that have good integration, but the Nest cams can be displayed on these Google Smart displays as well. Speaking of saving you stuff, I like saving you time, and one of the easiest ways to do that is to get a smart vacuum, and the entire series of iRobot smart vacuums are where you want to head. The reason I say that is the integration is really well done between Google and Roomba here, or iRobot, and so you can have a look at that, but what you can do is you can start and stop and pause cleaning, so you can leave it in the middle of the floor if you want, but you can also start and stop and pause within any room, send it to a specific room or a specific space, and then you can also send it home when you're done with it, or you just want it to stop, you need the home to be quiet or something. I do this stuff all the time with my smart vacuums, and iRobots or the Roombas are the best. When you head into the kitchen, there are a lot of different appliances now, but my favorite is the Instant Pot, and I use this thing almost on a daily basis at this point. But one of my favorite things about this is I can check the status with my Google Assistant as to what my Instant Pot is actually doing. I can turn it on and off, so I can kind of preset the cooking mode that I want to have occur and come home to a cooked meal. When I move over to the coffee maker, this is a wild thing, and you could go and spend a ton of money, but what I would recommend, especially if you have kind of a push button on or off coffee maker, which lots of them are at this point, I have my little SwitchBot device actually attached, and this just brings out a little hand and it pushes the on-off button, so I can ask my Google Assistant to turn that on and off. Now, I would recommend that you do have the hub that goes with this, the SwitchBot hub, and once you have that, it will work all the time. You can do that again remotely if you'd like, and there are other uses for those SwitchBots that I'm sure you're going to come up with as soon as you see that device. Smart lighting is one of the hardest topics to tackle, and it'll be the most divisive, I'm sure, on this video, but when you get into this, you really want to look for maximum compatibility. And it's funny because people get on Philips Hue so badly, but what they actually have done is created the maximum compatibility on the smart home market here for lighting. They have the ability to go into every voice assistant out there. They have the ability to integrate with Samsung SmartThings, Habitat, all of these different hubs very easily, and they have their own hub. Now, what also is really interesting about their compatibility is they have smart light switches, and this is actually a Zigbee bulb from Area that is a cheaper version of a color bulb, looks every bit as good as some of the Philips devices, but is half the price. So not only can you go get that hub, get a lot of great integration and automation with your Google Voice Assistant, and there's some specific stuff that you can do, like the wake up routines and the go to bed routines that bring your light on and off over 30 minutes. And not only can you do stuff like that, but you can connect these other devices from these other vendors and create all this automation. So Philips Hue is still the best from a hub perspective. Definitely. The next component of this is non-hub, or, you know, for people who are just going to add a few bulbs. I don't necessarily think you go out and you buy Philips Hue and you spend $50 on that hub. You can go out and get great Tuya or Smart Life, that's the application, bulbs out there. And I have some great ones that I will leave links down below. Great color bulbs, they're Wi-Fi connected, and if you have a good router or a good mesh Wi-Fi system like the Nest Wi-Fi system, you're not going to have reliability issues with those devices, and they integrate really well with the Google Assistant. And a lot of people will talk about Lifx, and I think if you want that ultimate pretty light, you can go get a couple of Lifx bulbs, but personally I find their pricing model to be the worst of them all, so I think you want to watch that. That's why I kind of point more to the Smart Life side of things. Now, when you head into light switches and you get a little deeper on that side, what I think I'm going to tell you is you want a smart home hub, and there's a couple of options. Number one, Habitat, which is a great option. Their Habitat elevation is entirely local control as long as you're directly connected with a Zigbee or a Z-Wave product. That is entirely localized control. Now, if you connect something like Philips Hue, that's not necessarily the case anymore, but in general, the automations run very fast on Habitat. But my personal preference is still Samsung SmartThings in 2020. This is what you look at, and then you can buy all kinds of different Z-Wave and Zigbee light switches that are out there today. My favorites in the Z-Wave side of things is the GE in Brighton series. Now, they are excellent, have one for everyone in your home, every situation within your smart home. And, you know, if you want something kind of more specialized, I really like some of the things I saw from Innovelli at CES, and then Zoos as well has a couple of interesting options with double switches and things like that. Now, once you have that smart home hub, you're going to run a lot of the automations directly off of there, but the control interface between Samsung and Google is really powerful. You can actually pick which devices from Samsung SmartThings get integrated into here, and this is a really important thing for managing when you have multiple smart home hubs or when you have multiple solutions connected together, because again, you could connect Philips Hue into Samsung SmartThings. You can connect things like TP-Link or Casa into SmartThings. SwitchBot, which we talked about, a ton can go into here, so you can end up with duplicate devices, but Samsung makes that easy, and their automations with all of these different products are the best right now and the best way to get home automation done. And then you can run some of those scenes with Google Assistant. Smart plugs and smart outlets are really the same deal as lots of the smart lighting. You can go a lot of different ways, but my favorite is the SmartThings Wi-Fi plug. I keep telling people this, it integrates into this hub, but you also don't need the hub to put that in, and you get energy monitoring because it is a Wi-Fi device. That's my favorite. And you can also, again, look into that Smart Life application. I have a bunch of smart plugs, again, in my home for that, and I actually have a smart power bar that I have recently purchased that goes within that app, and you can control the individual outlets, and you can also power on and off the USB ports on that one. So the Smart Life, there's a couple of links I'll leave again down below. You can have a look at that, and they are very reliable when you have good Wi-Fi. When you head outside and you want to get a smart plug out there, there are some specifics that you need to think about there. So you don't want to get water in, and so there's a lot of good connected plugs. I'm going to go back to the Smart Life platform. There are cheap versions out there. I don't like any of the iHome or the iDevices, and I find most of the smart plugs out there in the $40 to $50 range when they're outdoor rated. So I think you can look into this Smart Life thing, and also these kinds of things might be something that disappear when you leave them outdoors. So I think you go cheap here, and if it's not going to get wet, there is no reason you can't use any of the regular smart plugs that I've already talked to you about here. I have put a lot of these outside. I've put them in extreme weather conditions. You can go ahead and do it as long as they're not going to get wet. One exception here is if you want to look at something that integrates with SmartThings, if you're kind of in that direction, there is a great GE and Brighton, so we're back to those guys, outdoor Z-Wave switch. Let's get back to a couple of those bigger devices. Now, the August Smartlock Pro, and they now have a smaller version, is the one that I'm going to recommend, and there's two reasons for it, because you can see how hard I'm pushing you within the Google Assistant. You want kind of these two things in 2020. This doesn't do a lot of the automation that this can, but the August Smartlock Pro integrates really well with both of these devices, so that's very powerful for you. And that new version, it's smaller. I think it looks a little nicer. I was very impressed with it. In terms of a thermostat, it becomes really easy again. You could go with Ecobee, and I've seen that actually in Alan's home, who works with us here on Automate Your Life on our website. Alan has the Ecobee and a number of those temperature sensors. It integrates really well, but really you don't need a lot of integration with a voice assistant when it comes to those really smart thermostats. But what I do like about the newer Nest thermostats is the ability to actually diagnose HVAC issues. Now, this is a recent feature that Google has added, and I think it puts them kind of that step above, because they can actually tell you before your HVAC system is going to have a problem, so you're not left in the cold. I think that's really important and a really smart adder or addition to the Nest thermostat. When you get into the garage, you can look right at the MyQ hub to add to almost every garage door opener that's out there. It has really great integration, but the funny thing is, if you're a little bit older, it's not going to work. Now, that hub is going to work for a lot of people. Just check that your device is capable of that, because I tried to set it up in a couple, it did not work, and then I had to find a specific opener that did. But what I've done instead is, and again, this goes to that same little trick I used with the coffee maker, and actually one of my patrons actually reached out and showed me how they did this. Little 3D printer made this implementation really good, but they just took a garage door opener, one of their little remotes that they have, and usually people have an extra one of those, stuck a SwitchBot on and press the button, and this gives you full voice control as you come up to your home. You can ask the Google Assistant, especially if you have a phone with Google Assistant that's listening, you can just ask the Google Assistant there to open your garage door. And that's a really great point, because in the car, you're probably going to want your Google Assistant, but the right way to do this still today, they have some of these other Google Assistant connected devices, but to be honest, they have not been very good. I have not enjoyed them. Use an Android smartphone. If you have an old one, you can go ahead and get that connected into a Wi-Fi hotspot when you come into the car, or just use an existing Android phone to use the Google Assistant. That's my opinion. It gives you access to Android Auto-like features in a lot of cases. Now, there are a number of situations we didn't deal with within your smart home, so go ahead and leave those questions down below, guys. I would love to answer what I think is the right solution for your smart home, and I answer these questions all the time. Now, what I will tell you is I answered just a ton of questions from automators on our latest series, which is just about automators answered. So it's all your questions that you've had on the channel. I take them, I break them down, and I give you those quick solutions here on the channel. So go watch that. Otherwise, guys, check all the links down below. And of course, thanks for watching, and don't hate, automate.